the regular board meeting of the Santa Barbara Community College District Board of Trustees. This is our second meeting of the day. This is our 4 p.m. regular meeting. And all trustees are present. We'll begin the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, I welcome everybody to our meeting this evening, this afternoon. Our first order of business is longevity recognition. We have two persons being recognized tonight. Gary James for his 10 years. He is an educational program support specialist, and Jason Walker for recognizing him for his 20 years. He is Director of Information Technology User Services. And is there anybody here to orally recognize these two outstanding individuals?
President Miller, I could say a few quick words about Gary James and all he contributes.
Yes, please.
He's not here with us today because he's busy working, but Gary James makes it possible for us to manage the very complicated elements of loading faculty and managing all of the different units and program loads and all of the possibilities to make our system work at the level of payroll and unit acquisition. So he does a great job for ed programs, and we're happy to have him.
And thank you for that, Pamela. And is anybody here to speak on behalf of Jason Walker?
I believe Dean Nevins will be joining us. Yeah, here he comes right now.
Okay.
And yes, Dean is here.
Dean, we understand you're going to say a few words about Jason Walker.
Absolutely. It's difficult for me to overstate how nice it is to work with Jason. I've been working with him. I actually started out as a faculty member, and Jason and I worked together on a lot of lab projects and looking at lab utilization and things of that nature. And I found him at that time, as I do now, to be someone who's extremely thorough, knowledgeable, and really, really ready to get down and work to solve problems. Jason has been a real asset to the IT department, and I am really thrilled to continue to be able to work with him and look forward to working with him for another 20 years. So thank you very much, Jason.
Thank you, Dean. And again, thank you, Vice President Ralston. This is obviously the best part of our board agenda. So it's always good that we start out with this. We'll now move on to public comment. And I understand we have 3 public comments tonight. Is that correct, Luz?
Thank you, Board President Miller. We actually have 4 public comments during the general public comment portion. So for those people who wrote in, just to let you know, we'll have Jesse Felix, followed by Guire Schuyler, followed by Craig Kiesler, followed by Ellen Carey. So I will call Jesse and get him on in 1 minute.
Okay. And then we have other comments for specific agenda items.
So Jesse did not answer, so I am going to call Guire and I'll try him back after.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Hello, my name is Guire Schuyler, and I'm a faculty member at SBCC, and I've been here for over 20 years. This is my first time making a public comment, and I am here speaking today to hold our Board of Trustees accountable to our students and employees. The members of the board, we look to you as leaders of the college, and you should be role models. Each board member should be committed to combat racism and should wholeheartedly be able to say that Black Lives Matter in all capital letters. I'm speaking directly to board members Veronica Gallardo and Craig Nielsen, who voted against board resolution number 18, entitled Affirming Our Commitment for Black and African American Students, Faculty, and Staff. Ms. Gallardo and Mr. Nielsen, it is your duty to step down from the board because your actions make the college environment, the college climate that we as an institution are trying to rectify, you make it unsafe and unwelcoming to students and employees with your vote. You need to step down so that SBCC can be led by informed board members who are committed to dismantling structural racism and addressing anti-Blackness and racism in all of its forms at Santa Barbara City College. With all due respect, Ms. Gallardo and Mr. Nielsen, you are getting in the way of the college doing the work to be a more inclusive and equitable institution. Please consider my words and submit your resignation. Thank you. That is the end of my comment.
Thank you, Ms. Schuyler, for your comments this evening.
Thank you. I'll call the next person. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, I'd like to thank the board for allowing me to provide a public comment as required of them by California state law. I live on the Mesa and have taken an interest in the goings on at our local community college. I think it's a fantastic resource for not only Santa Barbara, but the state as a whole. However, I've had misgivings for several years regarding the behavior and comments by some of the trustees during board meetings. And to avoid listing off every off-color comment, non sequitur, or unprofessional behavior by board members that I've observed watching the recordings of the meetings, I want to focus on what happened during the June 25th board meeting, just as an example. Trustee Nielsen, I don't know your age, but I suspect you were alive when Emmett Till was murdered in 1955. After what you've seen since then, how can you vote against the resolution in support of Black students at the community college you are a steward of? At that meeting, you said, I'm one of these weird people that thinks all lives matter. I believe you misspoke. You should have said, I'm one of these people with racist views that says all lives matter. Just because the resolution says Black Lives Matter doesn't mean only Black Lives Matter. You're going out of your way to misinterpret that statement, and that tells me all I need to know about your character. Other comments you made show that you clearly care more about the appearance of the board looking racist than the board actually being racist. For someone so concerned with appearances, please try to keep your eyes open, shirt buttoned, and keep cigarettes out of your mouth during the board meetings. I expect you to respect Black students at the college, as well as your position as a trustee. More than that, Trustee Gallardo, you routinely go off on tangents, disrespecting not only your fellow trustees' time, but the public's time as well. Like many of those listening, I'm sure I have a full-time job and a family with small kids. It's a real burden to routinely listen to long, drawn-out board meetings, sometimes going on 6 hours. I'm sure the public would be more active in the governance of SBCC if it didn't require such a time commitment to stay informed with what their trustee is doing to support or not support the educational goal of all students at the college. More to the point, and with a specific example, I have to ask, what exactly were you talking about at the June 25th meeting? I tried so hard to follow, but just couldn't do it. Somehow you managed to turn a very clear resolution in support of Black students that contained the words Black Lives Matter into a ramble on defunding the police and how you can't support such a cause because you're a public school teacher, a fact that you bring up every meeting. Weeks later, I'm still struggling to understand what a public school teacher has to do with your support of the police. As the Monmouth poll released yesterday shows, only 18% of Americans interpret defunding the police as getting rid of the police. 77% of them, in my opinion, correctly view defund the police as more as a call to action than a literal policy position. If you can sit here with a straight face and tell me that you think the way the police operate today is acceptable, that the state monopoly on violence that they hold is not used disproportionately against people of color, then I say you have racist views. You claim to be a proponent of equity on campus, as you made clear during your support for the artificial turf replacement at La Playa Stadium, and yet you couldn't support Black students at the college at that meeting. Anyways, I hope your son soon finds a safe artificial turf surface to play lacrosse on. Trustees Nielsen and Gallardo, you need to do better. All of you need to do better. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'll call the next person. Ellen did not answer. I'm going to try Jesse one last time. Actually, I got Ellen Carey. Go ahead, Ellen.
Thanks. Hello, board members. As you know, I'm a faculty member in the library. Over the last couple years, members of the SBCC community, students, staff, faculty, and the Santa Barbara, many Santa Barbara community members have come before this board again and again and again to share their concerns about anti-Blackness at SBCC. We have sought your support and engagement in addressing those overtly racist incidents on campus and a campus climate that reinforces systemic white supremacy. We have sought your acknowledgement of the harm systemic racism causes Black and African American members of our community. We have offered resources and opportunities for learning. All of you have had opportunities to participate in anti-racism training, and some of you have chosen to do so. I have seen some of you grow in your understanding of these issues, and I thank you for engaging in this vitally important work. I hope your engagement has given you a different perspective and a deeper understanding of the protests for Black lives that have taken place across the country in recent weeks in response to the murder of George Floyd and the many, many other murders of Black people by police before and since. Given the national conversation currently taking place and all of your experience with and opportunities for learning about anti-Black racism through your role as an SBCC trustee, I am dismayed, angry, and frankly disgusted that you could not unanimously pass a resolution in support of Black lives. According to the Pew Research Center, 67% of Americans express support for the Black Lives Matter movement. And so I speak directly to those of you who voted against the notion that Black Lives Matter at SBCC, Trustee Gallardo and Trustee Nielsen. You should be ashamed. You should be ashamed that after listening to Black and African American members of your own community describe the harm caused by racist systems and actions, that you still feel entitled to tell them that their lives do not matter. According to Board Policy 2200, it is your duty and responsibility as SBCC board members to, quote, ensure that SBCC's mission is implemented. That mission includes a commitment to, quote, fostering an equitable, inclusive, respectful, participatory, and supportive community dedicated to the success of every student. Do you think telling Black and African American students that their lives do not matter conveys this board's dedication to their success? Trustee Gallardo and Trustee Nielsen, your ongoing refusal to acknowledge the existence of anti-Black racism in our society in general and at SBCC in particular does not make it any less real in the lives of our students. Our community deserves board members who are genuinely committed to their duties and responsibilities as laid out in the board policies. I too call for your resignation from the SBCC Board of Trustees. Your refusal to support Black and African American members of this community undermines the SBCC mission and contributes to ongoing harm. Thank you.
So Luz, do you want to try Jesse one more time?
One last time, yes, thank you. Okay, Jesse, go ahead.
Thank you, trustees, for honoring the practice of hearing voices from the public. It is vital that each trustee understands completely the responsibility to the public that they have been entrusted with, and that each trustee also completely understands that the public includes people who voted for them, those that placed their trust in their individual and collective leadership, and those that voted to replace them because their trust has been eroded, if it ever existed. The public includes rich voices and white voices that are accustomed to being heard with deference. The public also includes folks whose skin color, immigration status, or socioeconomic standing has not accustomed them to being listened to, let alone heard. Trust is vital to an organization, to a power hierarchy. Trust is something that has been lacking at Santa Barbara City College, as the results of the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Survey demonstrate clearly. As previous SBCC President Dr. Helen Benjamin said, quote, "The goal of the survey was to gather data on our campus climate, share the data with our college community, and then to develop a plan of action to improve our climate on the basis of what we've learned from the survey. That remains the goal. Regardless of the outcome, let's remain focused on the goal of improvement and not turn this activity into something that divides us," end quote. And Helen also said, "This is a really big deal." As part of the larger community, Santa Barbara City College has always grappled with systemic racism and power structures stained with white supremacy. In November 2018, SBCC saw racism flare its hideous head yet again. Trust in our superiors was again blasted. What has changed? What have you done to learn from these disasters? How have you worked to listen to people of color? And what actions have you personally taken to build trust? Our world is currently grappling with systemic racism, white supremacy, and absence of trust of figures of authority on a level unparalleled in my lifetime. Activism is alive and paying attention. Individuals are having courageous conversations. Organizations from Ben & Jerry's to babynames.com are standing proudly in solidarity and reiterating what damn sure should be obvious, that Black lives matter. Meanwhile, Santa Barbara City College which states that it welcomes all students and also states that every student can expect a community that is equitable, inclusive, respectful, and supportive, cannot unanimously pass Resolution 18. Our business is giving people opportunity to grow. It astonishes me that an ice cream business can do so much better than what should we be doing. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you, Jesse, and all the other the prior public commenters for their time this evening. Is that all, Luz?
That concludes the general public comment. There is one request for public comment for item 11.1, board retreat, later in your agenda.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we now move on to item 4.1, to consideration of the minutes of the regular meeting of June 11th, the regular meeting of June 25, and the special meeting of July 2nd. Do I hear a motion to approve the meeting minutes for those meetings?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We now have a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes for those three meetings mentioned. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. We now have reports from, first of all, from Rayanne Napoleon as president of the Academic Senate. Good
Yeah.
afternoon, Rayanne.
Hi, I will be keeping my report very brief this afternoon, especially because I reported not too long ago and we haven't had much Senate or faculty activity between now and then. There are just a few quick things I want to share with you all as well as the public. The Senate will be having their regular summer Senate meeting next week, July 15th on Wednesday at our usual time, 3 p.m. The agenda will be published very soon, most likely this Sunday, and sent out to the community so that you can review the agenda. We will be covering a number of items that are especially important, specifically discussions around fall planning, discussions around curriculum, responses to the social unrest that we're seeing across the country, and other such items. In addition to the faculty work that we're doing at the Senate, as I've mentioned before, but it's worth repeating, that our faculty is working very hard to prepare for online instruction in the fall. And again, not just to deliver online in a remote way. Many of us are learning very quickly that online instruction is not the same as remote instruction. We're all working very hard to provide quality curriculum to our students and quality best practices. I'm very proud of the work that the faculty is doing. I'm very proud of the FRC and the support that they're providing us. And I just can't emphasize enough how amazing it is to see the things that people are coming up with, collaborating together, even in this distance setting, and working together to make sure that we're providing the best case scenario for our students in this very hard time. Along those same lines, I do want to share two items that are still in faculty's minds. One of them is the recent ICE decision that came out on Monday. Many faculty members, probably every single faculty member that I've spoken to this week, is very concerned about what came out from ICE and the Trump administration. And we are very concerned about how we will handle that as a college. I do know that our administrators, especially Dean Carolla Smith, is working very hard to make sure that our students are supported, but it is on faculty's mind what is going to happen there. A smaller piece of that puzzle, of course, is also if our international students are turned away, what then again happens to our budget discussions? We're first and foremost worried about the people that our students are and the safety of our international students and their well-being. But then there's also this other piece of what this means for our college moving forward in terms of budget scenarios. And so we're thinking about that because we are very worried that a lot of these students will be walking away from SBCC, and it will be very hard to bring them back for a number of reasons. The other thing that is still on the hearts and minds of many of our faculty, you heard from 2 faculty members tonight, we are still thinking critically about what is happening across the country, what has happened on our campus, and how we can best support our students, specifically our Black students, and also faculty and staff. So you're still hearing from faculty members about that. And again, I think this is something that is on the minds and in the hearts of many of our faculty members. Other than that, we're thinking critically about how to plan for fall. We look forward to being part of the really important conversations and planning that is happening around our classrooms in the fall and our schedule. And we look forward to continuing those conversations. So with that, I'll conclude my report tonight.
Thank you, Rayanne. I want to just have a couple comments to make before I ask other board members if they have questions or comments, but I know we're all pleased to hear of the hard work that's going on to make our online instruction as not just simply online, but as effective as possible. And you had some good comments for us at the last meeting on this. And I think all of us are probably reading articles in the newspaper about the difficulty of going to online and the obstacles that you're confronting. And
But where is the power button?
okay. So the other comment I want to make is when you mentioned the ICE action, I assume what you're talking about is the decision or order that visas will be denied to students, international students coming to the US or taking only online instruction. And I note in that regard—
I don't hear Robert, I don't hear anybody.
I note in that regard, can everybody hear me?
I can hear you.
We can hear you. I think it's just Dr. Goswami that cannot hear you.
Dr. Goswami is having some technical difficulties at the moment.
Okay, so I note in that regard, I've seen opposition arise all over the country, and I'm aware that lawsuits have already been filed. And I agree that is not good for us if all of a sudden students who are planning to come this year are denied on that basis. So we all are sharing the concern of the faculty in that regard. So.
Yeah, yes, and can I say that at least from what I've read about the ICE changes, or I guess they're not even really changes, it's just a take back basically of the waivers that they gave to spring and summer. One thing that's of concern is it's not just students that will come here, it's current students. And so it's my opinion that the timing of this was purposeful.
Purposeful, intentional, and political.
Yes, all of those things. I was hesitant to say that. I don't know why, but yes, yeah.
So, so your point is though that students are already here may be asked to leave because of the visas being removed. That's my understanding as well.
Not just asked to leave. And I don't want to put ideas in anyone's head, and I don't think that I'm going to by saying this. Not just asked to leave, but they want to leave because there's so much uncertainty. For all of us, our days change day to day. New information comes at us. We have to figure out how to navigate the ever-changing landscape that's in front of us. There's different protocols and different rules every single day here. And that's just as, you know, the run-of-the-mill average person. Now for an international student that is already here and trying to navigate an international education, and not quite understanding all of the rules or not understanding the ramifications, I'm deeply concerned that some of them are just going to throw up their hands, or their parents are going to say, there's too much uncertainty here. Let's just, let's bring you back or something.
And that's understandable. And just to be clear, it's obviously a very unwelcome order that's been issued by ICE. Does anybody else have questions or comments for Rayanne? Dr. Haslam?
I couldn't agree more. Creating additional uncertainty in a climate already complicated by a pandemic has to fall into the category of one of the most idiotic policies that I could imagine. But my point in coming to respond to you, Rayanne, was I just want to commend our faculty for the hard work they're doing. And one can only imagine how difficult it is to translate A to B, B being infinitely more complicated than A in terms of delivery of information, ideas, hanging on to the attention of the student who is already blasted with input from so many different sources. It just has to be very, very difficult. And as I read articles in the New York Times and other issues about what other faculty are doing, I would really urge us to try to learn from, rather than reinvent stuff that's already been invented. There are some really terrific ideas out there, and I suspect that our faculty is already up on that. But I want to commend the faculty for doing this really hard work.
Thank you. And it is my opinion that we are looking at a variety of diverse sources. We have a lot of in-house talent, and that we are thinking about how to really make this an amazing process and development as teachers.
Anyone else before we move on? Rayanne, thank you again for your comments tonight.
Thank you
Our
all.
next report is from Carson Mitchell with the Associated Students. I believe this is the first time Carson has presented to us, so.
Correct. Hello,
You're
good
on,
afternoon,
Carson.
everyone. So first and foremost, thank you so much for welcoming me to your meeting. It's a pleasure to meet you all, President Miller and trustees. I don't really have too much to give of substance, but I do have a lot of plans for the ASG in the coming year. So what we're doing right now is, for lack of a better term, a lot of housekeeping work. What I've been doing is making sure we're on top of all of our trainings, making sure we're ready to hit the ground running as soon as possible. We're coming in with a slightly small group this year. We're just going to start off with 3 of us. It'll be me, the president. We have a wonderful student advocate and a wonderful vice president of internal affairs. We understand we have a tremendous workload ahead of us this year, and we are very dedicated to the issues that are at hand. We are definitely up for the challenge. So hopefully we'll be able to report back consistently with good results on that end. In other words, just been preparing our budgets, getting some organization ready to set up programs. What's nice about having been on the ASG previously, I was our previous commissioner of academics, is I'm familiar with some of the plans that we didn't get to finish due to some of the, the disarray of the spring semester. So there are definitely some great initiatives that the ASG had going that we didn't get quite to execute last year that I'm very excited to bring forth to the table. And most importantly, I just want to extend myself out as a resource to all of you. There are a lot of challenges facing our student body in particular. And I believe bringing the students' perspective to this discussion is one of the most important aspects in problem solving. So I just want to say you are always welcome to contact me, reach out if you need anything from the ASG at any point. Please don't hesitate. And I'm excited to begin a really productive working relationship with you all. I know next time I come back, I'll definitely have some more substantive material to present about what we're doing. But all in all, I'm really excited for a great year. So thank you so much. And I'll keep it brief.
Thank you, Carson, and welcome again to our regular meetings. I guess we'll be seeing you on a regular basis, and we look forward to that. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Carson? I see Marcia has her hand raised.
Carson, I was just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I just want to say it's my honor to have been elected to represent the students in this position. I understand how important and how much of a voice I am given and how much privilege is bestowed upon me in that regard. So we intend to use this with the utmost responsibility. A little bit about myself. I'm going into my second year here at SBCC. Personally, I feel a strong dedication and commitment to the college, the mission, everything, all the values the college stands for, which has motivated me to get involved. I'm not typically like, I'm not a political science major. That's not really my field. I'm actually majoring in applied mathematics and applied physics. That's kind of where my passions lie. But above that, I have a dedication to helping out the students who aren't as fortunate as I am, and ensuring that everyone can have access to the amazing opportunities that I've had access to here. So yeah, I guess I don't want to ramble on about me too much. That's not too important, but thank you for that. Thank you for welcoming that opportunity.
Thank you, Carson. Anybody else? Seeing none, thank you again. We'll see you next month.
Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Next report from Liz Auchincloss on behalf of the classified employees. Liz, welcome.
Thank you very much, President Miller, board members. We usually don't meet during the summer, but at your last meeting, there was a statement read from our membership requesting that the e-board create a work group to deal with racism, and we've done that. We've had our first meeting. It's a meeting where we're planning what we can do, training for our e-board members, training for the staff, and then not only making statements, but trying to come up with some action items. But as I say, we've had one meeting, so one step at a time. Another thing we'll be doing tomorrow, we go into negotiations with the district about reopening the college. And so we'll see how that goes. There's quite a bit to discuss about that. And then I wanted to express appreciation to all the staff. The staff are working extremely hard, getting ready for the semester to start, trying to figure out how they can have personal interactions with students, especially the people in the LRC and the library and student services that have personal interactions with students. So they've been spending a lot of time and very busy. I know the accounting people have been very busy too. So I just wanted to acknowledge all the work that staff are doing to get ready for the semester, however it is that we work. Oh, and I shouldn't leave out too, all the techs that are trying to get the classrooms ready, because we will be having face-to-face classes and they have a lot to do to get all the classrooms working. It's a custodial staff who have to do all the cleaning. So I just want to appreciate all the staff and all the work that they do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Liz. Any questions for Liz tonight? I'm not seeing any, so we'll move on to Dr. Goswami. Good evening, Dr. Goswami.
My apologies. I had a complete breakdown of systems here in terms of being able to get back into the system. So, Owen basically drove here and got me in somehow. So I apologize for that.
Well, you got back just in time.
I'll report on update the board on a couple of things. One item you probably already heard about, that as we were just settling down, we got this ruling from ICE regarding what will happen to international students and what kind of conditions they have to abide by to be compliant with their visa status. So our faculty and staff are immediately at work to provide options for our students so that they can maintain their status And we have been in communication with our students, and some of them actually have communicated back to me, personally, in terms of their particular concerns. So I am fairly confident that we will be able to sort out the options for our students so that they can be in compliance. So that is the message I have sent to our international students also, that that we'll do everything to make sure that they are in compliance. And we have a deadline by which we have to report back regarding our plans, that is August 4th. So even though there might be some hope that there might be injunction or something, based on the lawsuits that are happening, we are not counting on it. So we are proceeding as if we will do our part to make our offerings compliant with ICE requirements, and we'll be ready to certify by August 4th. So,
Dr. Goswami, could I ask you, interrupt you there, and just ask, what is the requirement? I haven't been able to see this in the press reports. It sounded like if a student is enrolled in a single class in classroom instruction, that would satisfy the requirement. Is that correct?
Pretty much. Actually, what has happened is there were already some requirements for F1 students as to how they can stay in compliance. So some of those requirements were relaxed regarding online courses in spring and summer. And what they did was, they did not relax it anymore. So as a result, schools that are going to online are facing real problems. And there are nuances regarding, how many units of courses they need to take here and there. But the language that I have seen is that schools that offer a hybrid type of offerings, which means some face-to-face and some online, then those schools can certify in terms of how they can take some face-to-face classes and be in compliance. So I can provide a better summary from Carola, who knows more details about all the nuances. It might be too much for the board to get involved in, but generally there are, in general, foreign students cannot be taking too many online classes.
But you're encouraged that we can
Yes.
find a way to satisfy their requirements and keep our international students.
Yes, and not in a frivolous way, but in a real way, so that it doesn't detract from the students' ultimate career goals.
Excellent.
So we don't want to have them take some courses here and there that was not really part of their. So that is a challenge.
Okay.
Well, the other thing is we are our workbook has been working for the last month almost, a representative group regarding developing protocols for coming back to work. So we have ultimately developed pretty close to a 12-13 page manual or document of the various protocols. So we are in the final stages of reviewing that, and we will be submitting it to the county as part of our voluntary reopening plan. So the plan is maybe starting Monday, which is the 13th, or soon thereafter, we will allow some employees to voluntarily come on campus. And of course, there will be limitations in terms of how many employees can be on a particular office and what kind of self-declarations they have to make and things of that sort. Then our remote work status that we have been going under or operating under has been extended till August 9th. So we will make a determination shortly whether or not we will still bring some people back to campus after that. So the thing is, if we are going to be having face-to-face classes, then we'll have some employees coming to campus after August 9th, 10th, just to get ready for students. On the other hand, if things become so bad that we cannot even have face-to-face classes, then of course we will change our plans. So things are very much in a state of flux. So our first approach right now is to do the voluntary return. And then once we go through those hurdles, then around next week, towards the end of next week, we will develop our plan and for protocol for classroom teaching and actually working on campus. And we'll submit it to the county. Hope is that within a week, we'll get some additional guidelines from Chancellor's office or the governor regarding how higher education should open. But if it doesn't come, we will determine our own kind of protocol and submit it to the county for approval. And again, whether we actually open or not will depend on what is the state of SB Santa Barbara County spread. If the spread is not very high, obviously we'll not open. So there will be two decisions. One is that if we open, here is what things will go with, and then there will be a separate decision regarding do we actually open. And that we'll have to play it by ear as to when we make that call. Next one is it's a little bit of a good news. Actually, it's good news, not a little bit. It's good news in that there is going to be a block grant coming from the state called I think Coronavirus Relief Fund. I think the state has allocated about $120 million towards community colleges. And so details have to be worked out, but it looks like we will end up getting about 500,000 plus minus for expenditures in 2020. And then we might get another 600,000 plus minus for expenditures in 21-22. So we are likely to get $500,000 this year. No, again, approximate number. And then for 21-22, we might get about $600,000 more. So that's.
Is that directly related to expenditures related to COVID, or it can be spent more generally?
It will have some strings attached to it or conditions attached to it as to what it can be spent on. Preliminary look, I just saw it in a what do you call PowerPoint slide that here are some approximate conditions, and obviously it involves training, cleaning, professional development for online teaching and things of that sort. So it may defray some of our costs that we're incurring because the institutional part of the CARES Act money, we will end up spending fairly quickly, all of it. So obviously having some additional money is helpful. That way we can, if we have to do more things online in spring and spend more money on cleaning and things of that sort, we will have a fund to tap into. Couple of other items. One is I've been thinking about the mandate that the board has given on Resolution 18, and one that specifically deals with reviewing the board policies and procedures. That will be a monumental task, because our document is pretty thick. So my initial thought at this point is to convene a kind of a task force to go through those policies and identify which are the ones that are problematic and which are the ones and why. And then we can pass it along to BPAP and we can go through a regular process to update those policies. Because BPAP for itself, they're already busy doing regular revision of board policies. So reviewing this process through another lens is very difficult. So we'll have people who are more adept at looking at things from an equity perspective to analyze the process. So I was having a conversation with a person yesterday, and so the issue is now how is it that you look at policies and procedures from an equity lens? So one of the examples I gave was that, well, if you look at our how we offer our courses, if we want to bring in equity lens to offering our courses, one way to look at our offerings would be do we verify, since we know that majority of our students, substantial majority of our students work part-time, that do we make any attempt to make offer courses that they can complete their 12 units in the morning time slot so that they can work in the afternoon, or they can take courses in the afternoon so that they can go to work in the morning. So looking at things from that perspective to me is also a part of the equity lens, because so it will be a monumental task in terms of initially to agree on what are the parameters by which we will define equity in terms of our policies and their impacts on what populations. So that'll be a good exercise for the institution to go through. So I suspect that the first few meetings we will spend doing that, and I will probably invite some board members also to participate in that task force, and representatives from the faculty and classified and all of. But again, people who have some knowledge, so it'll be we will kind of vet the people who will serve that, because so that they have experience dealing with matters like that. So that's the process that I'm thinking about that we're going to adopt, so that once we identify that here are the policies that we need to look at and the reasons why, and we might suggest some language and pass it along to BPAP. And then at that point, it goes to the regular governance process. And finally, one of the things that probably is good for the community to know that as to how seriously we take our online offerings, that we don't just convert a course to online and say, well, that's online class. We actually invest a lot of time and energy in training people and pedagogy and best practices. So what I'd like to, if you allow me, I will ask Dr. Ralston to give us some idea about what are some of the trainings we do, specifics, so that we train our faculty and staff to provide online instruction. So Pamela, you want to?
Great, thank you. And before I totally jump into that, it'll wind up being relevant in a couple of ways, but we've done a lot of lauding of everyone who's helped move this forward into this online and remote environment. And I really want to thank the classified staff across the board for the work that they've done to help us do this. We have classified staff who are helping with the curriculum transformation, the classified staff in the FRC, the classified staff in the lab area. So all of those folks who support instruction and student services have just been amazing during this time period. And so that stretch of what it means to be online is just absolutely transformative, and it's changed almost everything that we do. AP 4105 describes how we approach distance education at the institution, and it covers what the requirements are to be really certified to do this work well. And so prior to March 13th, we had about 250 plus faculty who had gone through either an approval that had been sanctioned by our institution, and very few people were sanctioned for outside work. They went through our local processes, or they went through a mentorship here at the institution. So we already had a good portion of our faculty kind of up and ready to go. And that's been really important. So we've had department chairs who could help mentor. We've had senior faculty members who've been doing this work for a long time. We've had really innovative part-time faculty who've stepped in. And then the FRC has redesigned its training program to be as efficient and on the ground and as engaging as possible. So over the course of the summer, we've done 2 major trainings that account for about 14 hours worth of work. And this year we've infused into that, with the support of Title III and Title V grant funding, 3 additional hours of what it means to be working in an equity-minded framework in this kind of remote environment. But the long-standing work of that stretches out into our face instruction. We've transformed part of our curriculum process while we've worked through this. And so we're working from very technical pieces, how to help students feel engaged in a technical environment, all the way to the redesigned pedagogy that helps people rethink space and time. So for faculty who kind of grew up in the system like I did, I thought about everything in 50-minute blocks, right? I could do 3 important things in a 50-minute block, and then I could build on sets of 50-minute blocks, and I could lay out my course plan for a semester. when you're thinking about really significant asynchronous online instruction, you're really thinking about the end, and you're thinking, what are those most important outcomes I need someone to master before they leave here? And then you're building it back out, and time gets kind of amorphous. And so you're thinking about, how are people responsible for their own learning? How am I supporting those pieces? How am I pulling their learning back into what's happening in an engaged environment between students? We talk about that as regular and effective contact between faculty and students, and then between students as well. And so we've been doing an enormous amount of work on this. I am so proud of the professional development plan that we're submitting along with our blanket waiver to the state. We've been talked about already in this very short time period as an institution that's responded as beautifully as possible. And it hasn't been easy. And we probably have capacity that ranges from 2 to 98 on a 100-point scale of folks stepping into this work. And it's been really impressive to see what's happened so far. We're just going to continue to support faculty through this into fall. And, you know, we're talking about the understanding this isn't probably going to end just because December 12th shows up. So we're really starting to think about, what does our spring term look like? What do those transition points look like? And I had a chance to meet with 80 members of student services yesterday in a great big Zoom meeting. And we started talking about, what are the pieces that we really need to do to effectively support our folks in that remote space. And so we think about the learning that happens in student services has a component that looks a little bit like our distance education. It just plays out differently. So we'll be working through some strategies in the coming weeks to be able to support everybody in that area as well. So, questions about some of that?
Dr. Ralston, Dr. Goswami, thank you both for providing really informative reports this evening. But before I get to questions, I just want to say that I'm really glad to see we're moving already on resolution number 18. Obviously, we're going to be talking about that more at our retreat. And I think probably at our retreat, we'll be talking some about the online instruction and how it's going and what problems there are and so on and so forth. It's something I know we're all very interested in.
Can imagine.
It's such a huge part of what's happening right now. As to in-class instruction, I must say that watching the numbers in Santa Barbara County for COVID-19 cases the last week, even in the last 2 to 3 days, it doesn't make this board member very optimistic about what we're going to be able to do with classroom instruction in the fall. But we'll wait and see what the County Board of Health tells us. With that, I will move on to questions from the other board members, and I see Marcia Croninger has her hand raised.
Thank you, Robert. I was wanting to go back to the ICE matter and just kind of clarify in my mind. I fully agree. I think it was just a horrible thing to have happen. Given our uncertainty about, can we do face-to-face classes? Will we start doing face-to-face classes and then have to close later and go online? I'm just wondering how we're going to help our students adapt to that uncertainty, which is what Ray highlighted. It's very difficult. I assume we talked earlier about the possibility of students in another country taking our online classes. I assume it doesn't affect them. It affects the students who want to be in the United States.
It affects the visa holding, visa seeking students. So you could well be sitting in Sweden and decide, I want to study film production at Santa Barbara City College online. And you would have the ability to do that with our non-resident fees. That wouldn't be the same as applying for getting the visa, landing on the ground and being here. So we may well have some students who go through this process, stay at home and study in that way, and they'll have to reapply for visa status. And they'll be terribly inconvenienced for that. That'll cost them at minimum $350 to go back through that process. They'll have to re-aggregate all of their paperwork. So even students in that space would be disrupted.
So some of our students who are current students who already have a visa, They have gone home and they were trying to take some courses remotely, so they will lose their visa status. They'll be able to take the courses, but they will lose their visa status. Students who are here, we will try to be as flexible as possible so that we might think in terms of multiple late start classes. So we may start the class whenever the time window allows. So we may think of 8-week classes, and the 8-week classes can start potentially September 15th or October 1st or October 15th. So therefore, we will look for windows in which to make it happen so that they are compliant. That's one of the strategies. But I'm sure people are looking at other options as to how to do it.
Okay. Well, I certainly hope the lawsuits are successful, but it does strike me as a very difficult situation for our students to figure out this uncertainty. So.
So, Trustee Abood, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, and I wanted to just echo the same thing with doing everything we can for our international students. I think I like the late start idea. I've heard some others too, but I know we'll look at all of them. That's a cool idea. So whatever we can do, I think is really important. And I had a question on the reopening and on the task force talked about in terms of the policies. Maybe the task force, we can talk more on our retreat about that depending on the timeline. But on the reopening, I like what you're saying in terms of, okay, if it gets to a point, we're not gonna move to in-person, but what are those thresholds? Like, how is it gonna be based on, everything kind of, or are we looking at specific numbers that would, if the cases are at a certain point, like whatever the county and the state's doing, we'll go with those, or are we gonna try to look at more factors than just that? Because just the reason I ask is because I think, the county is obviously not in the phase 4, which is what higher education is supposed to be in. And I don't see it getting to phase 4 by August. And nor should I do, hopefully things get better, but it doesn't seem like it get to that point. But just wondering, what is our metric for making that decision?
Yeah, we haven't formalized the metric yet. It will certainly be the county guidelines, state guidelines, plus our own assessment of being able to deliver something in a safe way. So it is possible that as we pull back, if we pull back from face-to-face, we may not pull back from face-to-face in all the classes, but certain classes we might go ahead because we know that we can do it in a safe way. So it will be contextual and conditional upon the exact circumstance we're dealing with.
And will this come to the board at any point where we'll have just a comprehensive look of here's what the metric is, here's what we can do safe, here's the actual plan for it?
We will give you an update, possibly, not possibly, on the August 13th board meeting, I guess. Because that's the time around which or after which we will probably make the call regarding what we'll do in the fall.
Oh, you said August 13th?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. The reason I ask is because I've seen other school districts and community college districts where I've known people serving on those boards where they've started to make that decision now in terms of putting those in place. And I know it's not we don't want to rush it, but it has become a board decision. It's not, it's the administration presents a plan and the board votes to approve it. So that's what I would be interested in us getting to, so that there can be, that back and forth of here's what, because at the end of the day, I think we are responsible for anything that goes wrong at the end. If someone catches it because they're on campus and spreads it to other people. And again, my biggest priority is that we don't contribute to any death or serious illness in the community. So, and then my last question is, in the task force, what are we gonna do to make sure that it's, I like that we're gonna make sure we're gonna get people who are interested in these issues and, have the background, but wanting to make sure it's also significant majority, people of color who have the direct lived experience on top of the professional. Is that going to be a consideration?
Yeah, we will have people, representations from various minority populations also.
Okay, I think they might be the majority though in our college community, or in many ways in our student population. So, just want to make sure that when we're dealing with racism issues, our Black students, faculty, staff, Latino, other groups are the ones who affected the most. So they get to have the, stronger say, more involved say.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. Kate Parker, you have your hand raised.
I do, thank you. That was a really interesting report, Dr. Goswami. And I appreciate all the work that everybody's doing, trying to get the campus reopened. I completely agree with what other colleagues have said here about this ICE decision. I'm very much hoping, I know that our elected representatives are stepping up to try to fight this. I'm very much hoping that there is a quick decision in the courts so that we can get this shut down, because I just feel like it's such a burden, and really, really the wrong thing to do for students. So thank you for continuing to work on that and trying to mitigate it as you can. I appreciate this action that you're taking on Resolution 18, Dr. Goswami, and certainly would personally be happy to, if you're looking for board members to participate in any way, I'd be very happy to participate if possible. And then Dr. Ralston, thank you so much. I've had a curiosity around how faculty are trained, and sharing that as much as possible. I have been so impressed with SBCC, the Faculty Resource Center. I know that part of it is system-wide. There are some great things. I think the entire California Community College system, for example, is on Canvas. So when you have that kind of system-wide consistency, there's a lot that you can do. And my concern has been that this kind of certification and training is not in place system-wide K-12. And I continue to hope. I don't know if the CDE talks to the chancellor's office, and I don't know if there are any conversations going on locally. And obviously every school district is different, every school is different, and they're all using different systems. But in terms of the engagement pedagogy and the way to think about structuring a class, that's universal for good distance instruction. And there's a lot of things that I think our K-12 friends could learn from what's going on at SBCC. So I hope that they're paying attention to that, and I hope there's some outreach. And one question I had on that, Dr. Ralston, is you talked about the initial number that you started with for faculty that have certification now. Do you have a rough idea of where the college will be by the end of the summer?
So by the end of the summer, we'll be adding another 100 to that number, and then we'll be working, and that may be low. And then we'll be working to get everybody else up and ready through fall. So the hardest part, and I can imagine this is one of the struggles for K-12, is if you were starting from zero, that your training would wind up being the lowest entry level for everyone. And you can imagine how long it would take you to get to fabulous. So our benefit is that we're starting already with a third of our faculty solidly in place. And then that helps us in this sense of being able to kind of get to critical mass a little faster. So some of our faculty have been developing these tools into what will become non-credit courses and offerings. And I think that's one of the places, I know Trustee Parker, you've been interested in what sharing resources could look like. And I think if we had a moment to breathe, which maybe we'll get to, that sense of how we'll be able to help partner in a larger context might be able to emerge. So you all approved the retirement of David Wong last month, and that has been he has been an incredible servant to the institution and quite a loss and a blow to ed programs in his absence. But he's really helped lead the way through that. And then the partnership between him and Elizabeth Imhoff on the faculty side of what that work has looked like has just helped really transform that. So I think K-12 institutions that are looking to do that need to be thinking about how you bring all these things together.
Thank
So,
you.
So Trustee Parker, just to respond to your mentioning of the K-12 field and space, I have been in communication with Susan Saucedo. We have exchanged multiple text messages regarding making our or some versions of our training available for K-12 partners who need them. So my feeling is at some point in time we'll end up creating some sort of a partnership with Susan Saucedo.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Dr. Jonathan, I see your hand is still raised. Did I cut you off? Did you have another? Nope. Okay.
No, it's a mistake, but I did one last thing came into my mind, which is the Marcia had shared with me the amicus brief that we could sign on to in regards to the ICE decision. And so I would hope that we can do that. I think it's due on Monday. But that would be my last point.
Thank you. Marcia, did you still have a comment?
I was going to bring up the same thing because I just recently learned about that. And so it's not agendized, but from a consensus point of view, I would certainly be in favor of joining the amicus brief for community colleges. So.
How do we go about doing that?
Well, it's not on the agenda. I think I would guess that there's general support on the board for doing that, but I don't know that we can take action on it without an agenda item, without the amicus brief being available first. But is it something we could still do?
I think you have to let them know by Monday, and it's just started circulating around. I mean, the point being, no, we can't make any official decision because it's not on the agenda. Expressing support by board members wouldn't hurt. And then Dr. Goswami can make a decision there.
Okay.
Yes, I can certainly indicate that we would like to join and then bring it to the board as for me, for the board to formally approve it in either the.
Hey, bingo, we have a plan.
Okay. Dr. Haslam.
I just want to reiterate my concern. It has to do with students who are less knowledgeable about online learning, about computers, about that stuff. And those people tend to fall into a lower socioeconomic category of people. And these are precisely the people that the concept of equity wants us to help. Can you help me understand how we're likely to cope with or help those students in the learning process?
Yeah, I mean, if you sense that, no, I am still trying to make all on-ground teaching classes happen. The reason is precisely that. So only if it is not possible, we will cancel face-to-face classes because it is that important for some people to be there. Now, absent that, there will still be courses that students will take online and they will have difficulties. So we have ramped up our student service side of the equation because things happen in the classroom. There's one part that we have a robust mechanism that we have been doing it for the last 6-7 years very well. We are well known for it. Now we are also ramping up the side that deals with student support. So whether counseling or tutoring or any of those things. So it might be worthwhile that we might make a presentation, detailed presentation to the board sometime in maybe in August so that you have a better idea of what it is and how it is we do it in terms of when students need help.
I just feel it is just terribly important that we don't assume that everybody has the same level of awareness about how to use a laptop.
Right.
Because they don't. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, again, thank you, Dr. Goswami and Dr. Ralston for really meaty reports tonight, really important topics. So I believe we now move on to our consent calendar. We have items 7.1 and 7.2, items 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, and items 9.1, 9.2, and 9.3 on the consent calendar. Does any trustee wish to remove any of those items for separate consideration or discussion at this time? Not seeing any, is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
And any discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Hearing no nays, the motion passes unanimously. That takes us to action item 10.1, supplemental retirement plan. And as I understand it, we are being asked to approve 13 faculty members who have applied to for early retirement under the CERP program.
That's right. Okay. And they will be either retiring on December 31st or June 30th, 2021. And we could not do it earlier because this is the new budget year. So the board has to take action in the budget year that it occurs.
So do I hear a motion to approve acceptance of those 13 faculty retirements under the CERP program? Dr.
I'd like to move approval of this list of retirees with considerable regret and good wishes for a future in retirement.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Hearing none, the motion passes.
May I add a couple of explanations on this?
Yes.
Subsequent to that. So we will end up having, based on faculty that retired in spring, and then faculty that is going to retire next year, over 20 faculty who would have retired. And so that brings us to the consideration of FON, because we cannot have that many fewer faculty and meet FON. So obviously one of the things we will look at next year is very carefully as to how we maintain our faculty obligation number. And I'm just alerting you that we will have to hire some faculty so that we adhere to our obligations.
Yeah.
And we will be having conversations with both the educational programs staff and faculty senate regarding how to go about doing it in a manner that position us for what might come in the couple of years to come in the future. So I just wanted to alert you that some positions from that list will have to be filled.
Thank you for that comment. And I'm sure you'll be bringing that back to us again as the year goes on.
Yeah.
Any, I guess that concludes our action on item 10.1. The next item is 11.1, agenda item for the board retreat. But before we get to the agenda items, I think we need to discuss how we're going to hold the meeting. We originally set our board retreat for late July. I don't know when we did this, back in April or May, or maybe even earlier, with the idea that we would be able to do it in person by that time. And I think there's a general agreement among us that that is not going to be possible under the current circumstances. In other words, we cannot safely hold a board retreat in person. In fact, I think it would violate the current county health requirements or guidelines. So Dr. Goswami, you might address this. We discussed the possibility of going ahead with the retreat, but recognizing that a full day Zoom meeting may not be the most productive session, and that perhaps we break it into two and have half on July 24th and another half on some later date. Could you share your thoughts with us on that?
Yeah, so I think, there is something to be said in a workshop kind of environment to kind of walk around and look at, scribble things in a board and flip charts and all of those things. When you're not able to do that, when you have to sit and not even get up and walk around while you're talking, it doesn't allow for the free flow of ideas and conversations and things of that sort. So that's why I was thinking that maybe we should limit it to maybe 3 or 4 hours on 27th, and probably take up the more pressing items that we need to kind of develop a game plan for, and things that are more strategic in nature. We may want to do it at a time where we think we can meet in person and hash it out. So I think that's my thought, that let's bite into things that we need to take care of it immediately, and then sometime later, whenever we can, whenever the window opens up for us to be able to meet in person, then let's have a meeting where we can talk about some of the strategic issues for the institution.
I think that makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, just off the top of my head, I think that we would certainly discuss Resolution 18. In fact, Resolution 18 says we are going to address racism on campus. So I think that has to be on the agenda. I think there's a genuine interest about hearing more about online instruction. There's certainly an interest about how we're going to move forward, if at all, with classroom instruction. And there are probably other issues I'm not thinking of, but I'd like to hear from other board members, but I see a hand raised by Luz because I was supposed to allow public comment before this item. So we're going to stop and we're going to allow the public comment.
Thank you, President Miller. We do have a request from Cornelia Alzheimer for a public comment, so I'll get her on the phone.
Afternoon, honorable members of the Board of Trustees, President Miller, Dr. Goswami. Thank you very much for offering me the opportunity to provide you a bit of an update on what the Faculty Association has been doing in the last few weeks, specifically sharing some thoughts and ideas that you potentially may want to pick up on in your upcoming board retreat. We faculty are very social people. That character trait is probably part of the reason why we went into teaching or student services in the first place. We love to talk to our students. We love that casual conversation with colleagues in our offices or in the hallway, or chatting someone up who we happen to run into on our way across the bridge when the other person cannot escape, right? COVID-19 ended this pretty abruptly in the middle of March. Most of us have not seen each other since then. Several faculty members reached out to the FA with questions, so we started a Q&A Google document. That document has been growing on a daily basis and has had many visitors. And I saw that even some of our administrators did take a peek on occasion. But writing is not the same as talking. So we invited faculty to a live Zoom chat, the first one a week ago, and we offered another one just today at noon. For sure, we had much to talk about. Suggestions, inspirations, and ideas, but also worries and concerns. Faculty have tasked the FA with a whole number of things. One of them was to communicate with you, with our board members. So, and here is my official, to be shared, list for tonight. It is actually short. It is just one item. So that one and only number one item on this list is, let's plan for the year, including spring 2021, and let's not fool ourselves that things will be looking anywhere even close to normal anytime soon. It can only benefit our students and our institution if we plan ahead, and this planning needs to include a scenario where there's no vaccine and no effective cure, and no matter what anyone in the White House says, COVID-19 will not miraculously disappear either. We need to plan for a scenario that assumes that our college operations will still be mainly online in spring 2021. A scenario for developing our schedule to be mainly online. A scenario for allowing our students to graduate or finish certificates while mainly online. A scenario that strives for equity in educating our students while being online. A scenario that allows our international students to stay and complete their education in spite of the new requirements put on them and on us. A scenario for managing our enrollment while mainly online. A scenario for our budget, assuming that we will be mainly online all the way through spring semester. A scenario for ongoing and efficient support for all members of this college community. A scenario for evaluating and supporting our faculty while mainly online, but when most people are actually brand new to online teaching.
1 minute, Cornelia.
A scenario for addressing the truly enormous amounts of work that were needed and will be needed to get and keep our operations mainly online. Let's not be fooled. Yes, it is summer, but all our faculty, part-time and full-time, credit and non-credit, are working extremely hard every day to get our classes set up to be ready for online instruction in the fall. We also need ways to even more effectively communicate with each other while being mainly online. Ways to foster a sense of community. Community for our students, but also for our employees while being online. A sense of community for our institution. We are all in this together. And please allow me one concluding comment. The fact that the Faculty Association president has to talk to you over the phone tonight, and we cannot see each other. This is not fostering that sense of community. Maybe we can change at least this part as quickly as your retreat on July 27th, specifically allowing the FA to join your Zoom room as long as we cannot be together in our good old boardroom. Thank you very much for your attention.
Cornelia, thank you for your comments tonight. We appreciate you taking the time to share them with us. So we will now, and I apologize for almost neglecting to call on you. So going back to item 11.1, there's really two issues here. What we do on the 27th in terms of a 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 hour retreat, and what agenda items should we have on our list? Marcia Croninger, you have your hand up.
I certainly think that an all-day Zoom is probably not a great idea. But I am concerned that I think there are quite a number of topics that we should be talking about at our retreat. So I'm wondering about having a split where we have 2 3 to 4 hour. We seem to make it through the board meetings, so we should be able to last for a 3 to 4 hour retreat. And I have at least 3 in mind for the retreat as well in terms of topics. I don't know if you want to split the discussion here on format first and topic second, or do both.
Go ahead. Tell us your topics.
Well, Cornelia just hit one of them, which is planning for spring 21. And not assuming that things will be normal by then, because I certainly am among the deeply skeptical on that front. And Jonathan touched earlier on the issue of whether we reopen in the fall and what the plan is. And I know there has been a ton of work going into that and a lot of planning and thinking and so forth, but it seems to me that decision is a board level decision. That's how it's happening in our K-12s around here. That's how it's happening really all across the nation. Boards are addressing that decision. So I think we need to do that. And I think we need to hear about the plan. I did hear an interesting story this morning on NPR about a Georgia school district. This is in reference to Jonathan's question about criteria. They had developed criteria that were shorthanded to level 1, level 2, level 3, whatever. So people would know what they were talking about. And those criteria had to do with whether or not they were having an outbreak, whether students had been identified as having caught the virus and consequences of that. We may have a more complex matrix, but I thought that that was an interesting thing that they had done in terms of developing criteria. And they were trying to put the focus on kind of the numerical thresholds and what response would be that might flow from that, rather than, oh, who's got it, or that kind of, reaction. And then finally, Cornelia also raised the issue of having the Faculty Association visible here on our Zoom. I think, frankly, many colleges have them do reports, and also our Advancing Leadership group would be in a similar situation, that hearing from them as well would be appropriate. So I'm suggesting we have a discussion about that.
Okay, thank you. Veronica, you have your hand raised.
Yes. So guided pathways, and that's something that I strongly suggest that we focus on. Whatever we build, and if we already have great online degree programs. So Santa Barbara City College isn't starting from scratch. So if we have to expand as we are and make that more of a permanent modality of teaching for our institution, and that scope is going to get bigger, it's still going to fall under the guided pathway-based model. And so how that model is going to be unique to Santa Barbara City College, we've had a team that spent a tremendous amount of time spending hours and looking at these different systems. So I would like our conversations to be structured around that with regard to student success. Built into that to guided pathways is the K-12 to higher ed. And we have a robust dual enrollment program with our local high school students, but of great interest is how do we get our students at Santa Barbara Unified that where community colleges is the pipeline for them. So that's our Hispanic, Latino, Black, African American students, where we already know our K-12 systems that we serve in our district, we have a disproportionate gap in achievement. And so I want us to look at what we're going to be doing with that, knowing that many of them are going to choose Santa Barbara City College naturally. And that really ties into strong workforce. And that's already an initiative from the governor's office. It's already all put in place. And I think that ties into nicely that work at the county ed office with Susan Salcido, and just really looking, that whole purpose behind strong workforce is really looking at that pre-K through 14. So I like us to focus on that because that's really going to keep us under a really strong umbrella within the scope of the California Community College and making an impact in the areas that we can, which is enhancing teaching and learning in the classroom and looking at how to best support all of our students, but specifically the population of students coming in from Carp High and Santa Barbara Unified and San Ynez Forever, where historically and traditionally they have not been accessing the classroom to the extent possible. And specifically now with COVID, the K-12 sector is in a completely different space than Santa Barbara City College is. I mean, they're still sending out surveys asking teachers if they're even going to come back to work. So they don't even know who's coming to work. And I was on the webinar, another webinar today with Naleo, and that's one thing that they were saying is the school districts are kind of grappling with that. So the implication for us will be that we're going to sort of see how this affected students in the next year or two. So for us to be prepared for these junior and seniors that will be coming up, I think will be important. We had the Governance Institute for Success that we all attended in Solvang, a year ago in March. And that sort of touched on a lot of those big things, looking at some of the best practices from Excelencia. And there's a lot of things out there that we know already work for underrepresented students, specifically the demographic that's within our local feeder. Our Transfer Achievement Program obviously is one of those programs that won that award. So I think that at Santa Barbara City College, I feel hopeful that we're not starting from scratch in any shape, because we have things that have worked. But I really want us to look at how we're looking at equity with the faculty resource center that we have. I sent a couple of you, UC Davis has a model where they have, it's sort of like their Equity Student Success Center. And what's awesome about it is at the center of it, it's developing the capacity of the faculty and just really looking at pedagogy that works well for students. And we know that it will help them achieve their goals. So that is sort of where I'm thinking of in terms of the retreat, really looking at teaching and learning in the classroom, guided pathways, strong workforce, and really leveraging on the initiatives that are being put in place, especially now when funding is limited. We have some things that have already been sort of laid out, and the county office can certainly help us with that strong workforce K-12.
Thank you, Veronica.
Which ties to career technical education. Sorry, Robert, I said all this jargon. I just remembered. Strong workforce is basically like career technical education and all that stuff that we offer.
Thank you. Jonathan, your hand is raised.
Yeah, in terms of format, I agree that 2 3 to 4 hour sessions is fine with me as long as the second one is, scheduled sometime in advance, like 2 to 3 weeks. In terms of topics, I think Cornelia completely covered what more than I could have ever imagined what one of the topics should be, the different sub points, but generally under our COVID response and how we reopen or keep the college going online mainly, which is what I also think is going to happen and what we need to be fully prepared for. So I think starting with scenarios and early ideas about fall, or where we're going towards fall, and starting to have serious conversations on spring. Everything Cornelia said, I think you can just copy paste what she said, and that'll be the agenda item. It's fine with me, and having them be included in the room. And the other one would be Resolution 18, and it looks like we have some things moving more, and some things are going to move faster than others, and that's fine. But just starting to break the different commitments we made in that down and saying, okay, this one we can get done more quickly. This one takes more work than this other one, and just starting to have those early discussions. And we did say in the resolution we wanted to have community input as we go into our retreat to have that discussion. So I know that will also be hard to do between now and the 27th. So I don't know how we would do that, but it would be good to figure out how we could get some. We had some public comment today, but maybe we can, set aside like first 30 minutes, hour to really invite people to come speak to us and make, not like panelists, but make sure that we have a good set of speakers from the public. So that would be the two things: COVID-19 and how we run our college under it, and Resolution 18.
Dr. Haslam.
I would concur with a couple of sessions. My preference would be to get together in person, maybe on the Great Meadow with chairs just separated by an appropriate distance. But if that isn't possible, Zoom for at least 2 sessions would be okay with me. In terms of my wished for inclusions on the agenda, something we haven't talked about in a while, but we did advance the idea of having some form of ombudsperson presence on campus that could help us whenever disputes happened. And I think the argument was that we should do this prior to getting into a conflict situation, so that finding such a person would not be something that we would do while in the middle of a conflict. I'd also like to see us have an evaluation process for our online education, especially with respect to those students who we would categorize as the most vulnerable. How are they doing? I don't know what percentage of students that would be, but I would be very, very interested in focusing on them to see whether, frankly, whether we're reaching them. And my great worry is that this approach won't do it, but I hope I'm wrong. I'd also like for us to discuss the board meeting format. I mean, Cornelia had one part that said maybe it's possible to have other people rather than in a cumbersome telephone connection. Liz, I think you're doing a wonderful job. I don't want to be critical of what you're doing, but there are times when having that person right there would have been just easier. And there may be other ways by which we can augment what we're now doing now that we've had some experience doing it. What could we do? And I'd love to have some input from experts who understand this stuff infinitely better than I do. It seems to me that we may also at some point want to discuss the bond measure. The buildings that we have are still aging, and we still need a bond measure. So having a discussion about it would bring us maybe up to date and perhaps develop the beginnings of a plan to move in that direction, or to find an alternative for coping with the construction needs that we have.
Thank you. Trustee Parker.
Thank you. Gosh, my fellow trustees are all coming up with such great ideas, and it's kind of like, sounds like a 2-week board retreat. But I would say, I mean, probably my priorities are also Resolution 18 and COVID-19. But from what everybody is talking about, I just want to be sure that we have a chance to talk about accreditation, since really everything that we're doing is going to be following under that umbrella, and we have that coming up as a formal process in 21-22. So there's a lot. I know that the staff are completely on top of getting us ready for that, but I want to be sure that we're talking about that too. One thing I would say is that I have seen, and this gets to Trustee Haslam's point, and also to FA's point about participating. First of all, I think it'd be great if they were, if Cornelia were here and it's part of the Zoom room. But what I've seen other boards and councils doing is actually run it as a webinar. And then when members of the public can be held out, they can be there as attendees and just listen. And then whoever is hosting the meeting can actually bring the speaker onto the panel briefly so that they can give their 5-minute of public comment on whatever topic. And then they get moved back down off the panel. So that is a technical idea. It does not work, of course, if you're doing breakout rooms. And so you'd have to restructure your closed sessions to a different format. But in general, I like the idea of a shorter Zoom meetings. Honestly, our meetings right now are way too long, and the idea of doing it as part of a retreat in this kind of long format would be really painful. So I approve of the idea of keeping it shorter. And again, as soon as we could do social distancing meetings in person for this type of thing would be great.
Thank you, Kate. I think I've already mentioned my thoughts on the matter, but let me just reiterate again. I think we obviously have to deal with Resolution 18. We obviously have to deal with COVID-19, and those two topics could probably consume much of the 3 to 4 hours. I would also like to have a discussion, which I don't think will take very long. In fact, maybe we can do some research ahead of time on the technical parameters of having commenters actually appear on our Zoom meetings so they can come in and go out. I know that can be done fairly easily, but we should chat about that. So that would be the focus of what I think we should look at first and what we could accomplish in that meeting. Some of this may depend on how it's all going to be presented. And there's only, we're going to do this on the 27th. That's like 18 days from now. So there have to be people at the college are going to make presentations or lead these discussions, and it's going to take some time for preparation. So I guess we'll need to hear from Dr. Goswami a bit about how doable some of this is. But the two major topics again are Resolution 18, COVID-19, and I wouldn't mind having a discussion on ombudsman. We've talked about that a lot. We don't ever seem to get to complete closure on that item. When Peter mentioned wanting a discussion on online instruction and vulnerable students, I think that would most likely come under the umbrella of COVID-19. And those are my thoughts. I see hands gone up again. Marcia.
Just to clarify, I think there's two elements. One is, can we do a better job of bringing public comment people into the Zoom room? And you just touched on that. But I also wanted to clarify that my point was that we have groups on campus who have important responsibilities that we're not hearing from, that we would do well to include on our regular report schedule. So that's two separate issues. And I don't think they're necessarily a long discussion. And then because there's so many issues we're all raising here, I do think it's important to have a second 3 or 4 hour retreat element. We were originally going to have a full day, and obviously that's not feasible, but we've got a lot of important topics.
Thank you. Veronica?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to hear from maybe Dr. Goswami or Dr. Ralston. I don't know how we would have any of these conversations without looking at our model of how we're delivering this instruction. And just so to me, this is all part of that guided pathways model for Santa Barbara City College. So I think that not putting it within that framework is just going to be sort of this isolated conversations. That makes sense, because it works in tandem with what we're doing. I mean, you guys would learn more of just that, the $1.1 million allocation in strong workforce for Santa Barbara City College and how that ties in with the K-12 and our CTEs. And so really all of these issues that we talk about with regard to equity for all students, it has to be within a framework of some way that folks are going to navigate this. And I think that that was the whole reason we were selected for the guided pathways. And so we now finished and that work is done. We did all the institutes. And so now it's like, let's roll this thing out, you know, step by step. So I guess I'd like to hear from Dr. Goswami and, or, you know, Dr. Ralston, why would we do this without guided pathways at the forefront as sort of that model that we've been striving for?
Hey, Trustee Nielsen.
Thank you. I was kind of quiet about this, but I just listened to everybody, and you ticked off my colleagues ticked off the points that I really had. But I would like to. I had a point of view that I think is included mostly with what Peter said and what Veronica was talking about, but I really think, and it goes back to what our faculty association president said, ties in with that too. And I think we need to realize that what's happened with all these changes due to COVID-19 has really fostered the beginnings of a permanent change. And because even if we were to beat this, which isn't going to probably happen that fast, it won't be the last one that comes. And so realizing that we're facing a permanent change in how we do things and that we're blessed by being on the forefront of how to deal with it as far as educational institutions go, we have a lot we can do. Earlier was mentioned by Dr. Goswami about, you know, can we do something to offer some kind of credit, non-credit or whatever, classes or forums or whatever to help the K-12 districts. And there's a lot of K-12 districts that are not coping well at all with this. Some of them in the state of California, not so far away from here, just basically shut down and didn't do anything, like nothing. The kids went home. Because these things impact everything, and the ones that suffer the worst are the at-risk youth, the marginalized youth, the people that are really suffering. I think paying attention to that, to the achievement gap, and how do we better attack that, because we need to attack it in a different way. So I don't know how to put attacking the achievement gap into a separate thing, but I'm thinking that we need to have some kind of, or I've been thinking that we need to have, maybe there's some experts out there that can give us some advice on where to start looking or where to start doing this, because we can't do it the way we've been doing it. It doesn't look like we're going to get back anytime in the near future into full regular classrooms. I think we need to spend some time really having some good discussions on that, about where we need to go with this, and, you know, where do we even start looking? Because that achievement gap is not going away. And our minority students, the people we're really concerned about with Prop 18. And by the way, the board voted to pass the proposition. That's the way the board voted, and we have to do it, and we're going to. So that needs to be a major topic. But, you know, how are we actually going to do that? And I'd like to see a lot of emphasis on what Peter brought up on those points. And what Veronica said about the about guided pathways is really critical. Is that just going to die now, or what can we do? And the people that need guided pathways most are the marginalized students. Those are the students that need it most. And how are we going to reach them when we can't do in person? There's no touchy-feely. They're limited greatly. And I don't see us succeeding unless we come up with some really good ways to do that. At least some attempts to improve or do things different. Okay, I rambled on enough. Thank you for letting me talk.
Okay, we've got 2 minutes left before we have to go to our next meeting. Let me suggest that we have a couple trustees who might work with Dr. Goswami to try to refine and come up with an agenda that, based on the comments we've heard tonight.
I can help him. Look, I got on my binders and my guided pathways and my student success. I mean, I'd love to work with him on that. If I don't think we'd be starting from scratch too much, Robert. I'm looking at the guiding questions that we had from this Government Institute, and you know, one of them is, are my school's policies designed to accommodate differences in student support to ensure their success? I mean, I think that's what we were talking about, like with the policies. How are we ensuring alignment between academic goals and social support for students? So I think that between the material we've had in our conferences, we can come up with something that will give us data informed decisions, but narrow the scope to what we need to accomplish without having a plethora.
We're about out of time. Kate, would you be willing to help on this? Okay. So
That's
we
a
got
yes.
two volunteers.
Good. How about a link to the next meeting? Do we have one yet?
Pardon?
I don't seem to have a link for the next meeting. unless
So-
it just came in.
It is this meeting itself. We'll just adjourn from this meeting
Oh, okay.
and then come back to this meeting.
We'll just stay on.
Okay.
So I see other hands up, Marcia, Veronica, but we're really out of time. You can be really quick.
Oh, I don't need it. I don't have a question.
Okay, Marcia?
I don't know that there's a huge consequence to being late here. But my question would be, I wanted to do something brief under the next agenda item, which we didn't get to, the board reports. And I don't mind if we want to move to the next meeting and then pick up board reports afterward. If you want to take things out of order in effect. Though I think there's a complication of procedure if you do that.
I think we adjourn from this meeting to that meeting and finish that meeting and come back to this one.
That's fine too.
Well, we
I have no
paused
problem
this
with that.
meeting.
So do we need a motion to adjourn from this meeting?
Yes.
Or
But it's not an adjournment. It's
suspend? or-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Motion to suspend this meeting to be completed after the 6 o'clock special meeting.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Hearing none, motion passes. So I think we can now, unless Clyde tells me differently, we can now move right into the 6 o'clock special board meeting.
Yes.
You are good to go.
And I'll just introduce this by saying we're now starting a special board meeting of the Santa Barbara Community College District Board of Trustees on July 9, 2020. All members of the Board of Trustees are present. And my understanding is we don't have any public comments. We don't have any public comments. And we really only have one agenda item, and I think we can just move right to that agenda item, 3.1. It's recommended that the Board of Trustees approve actions involving permanent personnel. And Dr. Goswami, could you just briefly tell us what we're being asked to approve here?
Yes. So after we posted the regular meeting agenda, we were able to finalize the people that were in the process of being hired. So we are bringing that forward to you. So we have 2 faculty members, Daniel Spitz in business administration and Jody Armstrong in geography. We have successfully found a candidate, and this term turns out to be our internal candidate, Paloma Arnold for Dean of Student Affairs. And then Morgan Arguello for coordinator of the Student Ready program. Then we have for classified management, Dean Nevins, who would be our interim executive director of information technology. And we were able to snag a delightful person to be an executive assistant to the board and to me, Jasmine Fazon. As a little bit of background, I did ask Trustee Miller to sit with me in the final interviews of the executive assistant position. And we certainly identified 2 outstanding individuals with whom we had further conversations, with whom I had further conversations, and then we ended up picking Jasmine for the position. I'll be forwarding her bio and things like that to the board shortly. And
I'll just add that I think she'll bring a lot of energy and smarts to the job. She's got a background in working in education, primarily in K-12 school districts, but also with, I think it's University of San Francisco. She had some experience there, and I think she's going to be excellent. But Dr. Goswami, I believe, is going to distribute her resume, so you'll be able to read more detail about her background. So do I hear a motion to approve the actions proposed for the permanent personnel identified?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Say nay. Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Do I hear a motion to adjourn this meeting and return to our prior regular board meeting?
I so move.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. So we are now back in our 4 o'clock meeting.
Yeah.
And we were concluding our discussion of the agenda for our board retreat on the 27th of July. I'm assuming we would do this in the morning. Is there any thought on that? I'm assuming like 9 to 12 or 9 to 1. I see some thumbs raised. And Veronica and Kate have agreed to work with Dr. Goswami on putting together an agenda based on the comments they've heard from other board members. Any other discussion on that topic?
No, I'm wondering if the board is comfortable with having to do some homework before the board meeting. Like maybe you have to, look at some data, and because we don't have that much time, right? So the more background knowledge you have on the topic that's going to be presented, I feel might be important, but if you guys feel you don't have.
No, really good idea. Thank you.
I think, yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Okay, because then that'll help us in planning to know,
I would just ask that that we're careful with the Brown Act and be sure to attach any homework to the board retreat agenda so that members of the public can do that homework too.
Sure.
Oh, yes.
So
I would think that the board chair should be involved in the development of the agenda along with Marcia and Veronica.
I'm happy to do that.
Kate.
Right.
Kate.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay, so unless there's other discussion on that matter, we can go to reports from board members. Does anybody have anything to report? Marcia?
Yeah, I mentioned I did. If someone else wants to go first, they're welcome. I wanted to report back from our budget discussions. I was happy to spend time with Dr. Goswami and Lindsay Moss, and we went over a number of budget questions, and Craig Nielsen was with us as well. Questions that we had on the budget. And then we didn't get all the way through them. So Dr. Goswami finished up answering some of those questions and distributed to the board. So what I wanted to do was kind of give an overview, and Dr. Goswami and I discussed this yesterday in talking about today's agenda, an overview of what I see based on the answers to those questions and looking at our tentative budget that was adopted last time. We often talk about SBCC as a family, and we are a family. And I think one way to look at our budget is that we're a family that has father, mother, and children. And these are our different funds. So we spent most of our time last time looking at the unrestricted general fund. And we were looking at a $2.3 million deficit. But really all of the funds that are unrestricted can be moved around, can be used for purposes that we choose. And those funds are like members of the family that each have their own wallet. So dad has a wallet, mom has a wallet, each of the kids have a wallet, which usually doesn't have as much money. And then there's the couch. So if we think about this as our operating expenses are the expenses to run the family, what the family needs to operate. The areas there are what we see in the unrestricted general fund, child services, food services, equipment, construction, bookstore, and our insurance. We have to pay our insurance, as we all do in the family. So if you ignore the transfers back and forth when we move this money around, what you see is revenue coming in, going into the wallet, and expenses going out when you spend something from the wallet. And if you look at it in just those terms, what you will see is unrestricted general fund revenue subtract expenses, we're down 3.11 million. The child services revenue, we're down 232,000. Food services, 520,000. Equipment, we have 70,000 coming in revenue and $675,000 being spent. Construction, I'm breaking into two categories. One of them I'm putting here, which is just our emergency repairs. We're putting $0 in, so it has no revenue at this time. It's hard to tell what we'll spend, but our most recent estimate was 200,000, so I used that. Bookstore.
Can I just jump in, because this is not a board report in the sense that we have it on the agenda, and I want to be careful again about the Brown Act, that we're not moving into a financial item that none of us can respond to. So I'm hoping, Trustee Croninger, that you can get to something outside of a financial report that you were getting at.
Well, I wasn't looking at it as a financial report. I mean, I was looking at it as a report on the further work that I thought we agreed last time would happen that would follow up. I mean, I can do it again in a different agenda item if that would make you feel more comfortable, because I really don't want people to feel uncomfortable about that. I'm just trying to say, here's what we did and here's what happened.
Yeah, I'd love to see that as a budget agenda item.
Okay, we can do that.
I think all the numbers are available in the tentative budget that we presented to you. All you have to do is look at the all funds report, which is right at the beginning, even before the general fund numbers. So if you just look at right at the all funds sheet, which is page 5 and page 6, I think, you'll see all the various funds.
Well, I think the fundamental point is that rather than being down 2.3, we're down 5.2, not counting spending money on turf and PE building. And
that's not true. Because for construction, we are drawing down reserves.
So, okay, so we're opening up a whole budget discussion here that I don't think is appropriate.
We'll not go into it, but let me just say that I think it ties into what you and Veronica and Dr. Goswami will be working on, which is the question of planning, including for our agenda, the planning for spring. Because if spring is not online, it's a different budget. If spring is online, it's a different budget.
Okay. Trustee Gallardo, did you have a report to make?
But just to report that I attended the second training from NALEO, and they're actually done through Georgetown, through their institute there. And so this is, I will send you guys all the PowerPoints so that you guys can go through them. And so there's about 3 more series, and I know this is important for our accreditation for board development. And so it's good that actually a lot of this stuff is available online, so we don't have to pay money to fly anywhere. And so just if other board members are attending professional learning on their own, then if you guys can share those too, and then that way we can cross collaborate on the different things that we're learning about, because there's a lot of webinars that are being offered. So it's not as fun, but at least you don't have to leave your house. So anyway, so I'll send you guys and you guys can look through the PowerPoints, and they're actually really good. And one of the things that they highlighted was community. And I think we always did a good job with that with our community budget forums. And it'll just kind of give us some tools as we're talking to our community about some of the things that we're facing.
Thank you, Veronica. I don't see any other hands raised. So I'm going to move to item 12, which is items for future board consideration. We've already talked about the retreat, but are there any items that anybody wants to suggest for our August 13 meeting or our September 10 meeting?
May I suggest something?
Yes.
Perhaps we should, I listened to all the requests from the trustees about the items they'd like to discuss at the retreat. And obviously, if you have to discuss all that, you'll need about 4 or 5 retreats to go through all those items. So I think some of those requests indicate to me that those needs for information and discussion should happen at regular board meetings throughout the year at various times. So perhaps what we should do is we should revisit our board calendar in terms of what kind of reports and what kind of things we put in the board calendar, so that now the discussion regarding achievement gap should be part of regular board, because that's meat and potatoes of what boards do, reflecting on student data. So I think we need to probably revisit at some point in time, that might be a good item to talk about at the board retreat, that here is what our calendar should be in terms of here is the information that we need, and there is something we need in August, this will be in September, this will be in October. So in every board meeting, we have at least a substantive report that the board can discuss beyond budget.
Yeah. And I think actually Dr. Benjamin kind of had the same reaction that you're having, and ended up developing a document that says we want to, it was like a schedule of when we would address all these various topics and get reports on various items. I don't have that document handy.
Yeah, but we look at it before we develop the board calendar, board agenda items. but I think, we need to put more reports of substance in that.
Yeah. Very good.
And that way the board can, at least you can go back after a board meeting feeling that you have accomplished something, that, you've delved into something, of really important to the institution and to our students. And at least you came to some resolution and some understanding of that. I think that would be a good thing to do.
I think it's a great point. I totally agree. Dr. Haslam, you're about to say something?
No, I agreed. I agreed with both points of what Dr. Goswami said, that our list is much too long and some of the topics really belong in a regular board meeting. So I completely agree.
And Marcia, I see your hand still up. Was there some?
Yeah, I was just going to say, since we're talking about board agenda items, let's put the financial report thing on there so that I can wrap that up.
Okay. Okay. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Do I hear the unanimous vote supporting the motion?
Go to dinner.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Any nays? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you all. 3 meetings. We actually did 3 meetings shorter than we often do.
Hey, we did well on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone. Stay safe.
Good night.
Thanks, Robert.
You're welcome.